Video game villains. That's my topic. Just
best
what
ones, the
what
worst
makes a good villain and why, and then I guess your favorites, your tops. But because it seems like every time, not even just video games, but like movies and series or whatever, when a villain shows up, it just gets knocked all the time because it's always the same thing, which you can't get away from. Good versus evil. That's always what it's going to be. You can't get away from it. So, I don't know. A lot of people are like, well, the villain has to be relatable, or you have to see some piece of worth in that villain where you understand them, why they're doing this stuff. And I don't think that is the case.
I don't agree with that either. My all-time favorite villain, well, there's a couple of them that I absolutely adore, right?
Might be one of mine.
Darth Vader is one.
Okay.
I love Darth Vader.
Sure.
There's not really anything too relatable with Darth Vader, but the Joker from The Dark Knight, he is incredible. And then we're not going to get into spoilers, obviously, but the Green Goblin from this new Spider-Man movie.
Sure.
I love just the pure chaos, and
that's who he is.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's not relatable. Like there's nothing relatable to that. Like he's pure evil. That makes a great villain. I love that.
Yeah, he's fantastic. But, like, what makes a good villain to you guys, I guess? I don't know.
Well, that comment just made me laugh. As a barber, I love this show, as it is the perfect evolution of beards.
I think we've heard that before.
I love that comment. Okay, anyways.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. I want something unique when I see a villain.
Yeah.
Which is tough to do now, but that doesn't mean, like, relatable.
No, yeah, you're right.
One of my favorite video game villains of all time, I think it might be up there with number one or tied for number one, is Handsome Jack from Borderlands.
Oh, he's great, yeah.
Like, incredible. It gave you something special because he was so freaking hilarious.
Yeah, he was easily one of the funniest villains.
He was demented and stuff, but he fit perfectly into that universe as, having that comedic, role as well, that you kind of liked him. He made you like him, aside from, trying to kill you the whole time, but it was fun.
No, you're absolutely right.
Like, and then along with that, it added to the story as well. He had a cool story. It was part of the plot.
Yep.
And you had to work your way up to actually, facing him and get in there and stuff like normal. But like he had that uniqueness that made him something cool.
Yeah.
And you don't see that a lot. Like they tried to replicate that in the next game in Borderlands 3, and it was the same thing.
We still need to play that.
We do.
Yeah,
I'm waiting, man.
I never know when you work.
I work every day.
See, that's the problem.
And I get off at like 3.
Oh, that's about the time I wake up. So,
and there you go.
We're good.
But yeah, so that's cool. A uniqueness of some sort is needed for a villain,
Yeah, for sure.
Besides like cool aesthetic and all that kind of stuff, which is awesome. Level of difficulty is something people look for as well.
Yep.
That's not necessarily an everybody thing, but some people like it really hard. Some people don't, but sometimes a mysterious note or something you can't understand. Instead of like on the opposite side of being relatable, something you just don't understand.
Yeah.
Like Pyramid Head. I love Pyramid Head. It's Silent Hill, that series.
Oh,
it's fantastic.
I was like,
He's
who the heck is
so,
Pyramid Head?
This crazy monstrosity that's freaking scary. Like, if you look into the lore and stuff, you can understand what he represents and everything, and it changes. But, like, that's a really cool villain that doesn't immediately, what it is, that kind of thing. So just your thoughts on your favorites and why you think they're good.
I really, and
we'll get to that.
You're going to laugh because you're gonna say, of course it is.
Of course it is.
Alduin. I thought that was that was cool.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
The dragon coming back, trying to take over the world with dragon. Like I love that storyline. I know a lot of people hate on the Skyrim story.
Sure.
I think the concept of it with him being the villain is super super cool. Like the fact that you have to go find his wall that like describes how the ancient Nords actually was able to defeat him and all that stuff, and just the lore behind it and all this depth that they put into the backstory of that villain, I think is super cool.
It's very Elder Scrolls lore.
It is, and that's what I like though too.
I can appreciate the you are a normal human, so to speak, giving this, power of the dragons versus a dragon. So it's kind of that duality where you're given a little bit to be able to fight this thing, but you're not toe to toe,
Yeah.
So I like that bit, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool villain to have. So that's one that I really enjoy. Another one that I'm like, they brought up Far Cry.
Vas Montenegro.
I'm trying to think, because 6 is the newest one, right?
6 is the newest one. Yes.
Okay, so I have played 4 and 5.
You didn't play 3?
I wasn't into the series yet at that point. I didn't get into the series.
It's called 4. Going back and playing.
I know.
Honestly, skip all of them. Play 3.
I've played 4 and 5. I haven't played 6 or any other ones for that matter. But
what a performance!
That's pretty
for
good.
That character is fantastic. He's up there. Yeah. He's a human. Obviously, it's just a human. So that there's challenges there for me right then, because just human versus human is sometimes boring. A lot of times boring for me.
Yeah.
But he was so unpredictable, and he was a psychopath. You didn't know what he was gonna do, yet he was intelligent, and was always one step ahead of you.
Yeah.
And the voice acting performance was just fantastic. Really worth playing. So I'd definitely recommend going playing that one. So
see, because I think Far Cry. I was gonna say Far Cry 5. That's the one in Montana.
It's the cult leader.
Yeah, with the cult leader, that performance was incredible.
It was an interesting one. Yeah.
It was really kind of intriguing, I guess, because it was something that you don't really see in a video game, I guess, where they take over almost an entire, was it a county, I guess, with this religious cult, and you have to go in and try to infiltrate or destroy it. I thought that was really kind of a cool concept. It was fun. It was definitely one of those things that as you play through that game, because you have to fight his children, his children are involved in this, and so it's him and his family is what it is. But it's one of those things where
they made it interesting.
Really have a lot of fun.
Besides the religious dogma type stuff, but they made it interesting with the drugs.
Yeah.
So it was very
with the plants,
otherworldly.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on. You're high this whole time. They drug you. It's crazy. So
which is how
that's what made it interesting.
Yeah, which is how they were able to take over with this religious stuff. So it was the mix of the religion with the drugs, is what they were using to control these people, which I thought was incredibly cool. I mean, it's a concept you don't see much in video games, at least. Maybe in TV and movies, you'll see it every once in a while, but in video games, you really don't see it all that often. That was kind of cool.
Any other villains you think, Weston?
Well, I was just going to start off by saying I agree. Uniquity is one of the most important things for a villain. They have to stand out. They have to be different.
So many don't.
And so many of them are just cardboard cutouts, and that's what gets it for me. I also, one of the things that gets me for villains, that actually gets me to like them, is when they're interwoven into the story before you ever actually meet them or realize they may actually be the villain.
They have to add something to the game, to the story, the plot, and everything.
They have to fit be that world.
Established to a certain point where it means something to know who these people are. I'm
trying to think of what game did that really well. I know there's one that for whatever reason, I can't think of the name, where the villain is your friend the entire movie or the entire game, and then it just it flips, he betrays you, and then he becomes the main villain halfway through the game.
Yep.
It's you're after, and it happens all the time, but I can't think of the one. There's one example I was oh yeah, they did that super well, but in my mind, for whatever stupid reason, I can't think of it. I'll at 3 a.m. it'll just come to me. I'll be oh yeah, that was it. But I don't know, that was one of those things where I was that's always fun too.
Or one of the villains that I still think on and still love to this day is actually Kafka from Final Fantasy VI.
He's real good.
The way that they introduce him, he starts as a nobody in it, pretty much. He's there, he's not the greatest. But then you reach a point where he gets that power. I don't want to do any spoilers for him, but he's planning to play it, but
it's been a long time since that game came out, so
you
can say what you want, I guess, but true enough.
Really, really well built. If you stop and just look at his story and how he plays throughout, so that was one of them.
To a similar degree, I like Sephiroth.
Sephiroth is
Like
pretty
he's
good.
up. He doesn't have that same feeling, but like he's got that mysterious, that unsurmountable like peak that you have to attain from the get-go, and you're so far behind him, or beneath him, I should say. I don't know. I get that feeling when I think of Sephiroth. Like, he wasn't the most revolutionary character by any means. He's really cool, don't get me wrong, and he's just freaking awesome sword. But he was one of the first like big, like this guy is the end game kind of thing that hadn't been a really big thing up until that point, you know. But go on, Weston.
I like what Ace put in chat here. He goes, a good villain were the Fireflies in The Last of Us, which is one of those things where instead of being a one villain, a group of people is kind of a cool thing as well.
And we'll get to that in a bit too.
Okay, you already have that lined up.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, I don't know. There are actually a bunch of really good ones. Like, and then it's also like part of it's also just in the general game itself.
Sure.
Sometimes
yes.
the game itself is really good. The last villain, even if they're mediocre, can be really good.
Right.
At the same time, a really bad final boss ruins a game.
Right.
I'll give you an example. Fable 2. That last boss, like if you don't act quickly enough, you're not even the one who kills it. And all it takes is one hit and it's dead.
See, I'm going to be honest. I don't remember Fable 2. I know I played it. I played Fable 1 and 2. Or was it?
It became very forgettable because
Or was it 2 and 3?
You work your way through this entire thing. They build a spire that's supposed to grant so much power. And then you go and fight this last boss. It's a man. You hit him once, he's dead. It's over. There's no real fight to it. And that in the aftermath of Fable the Lost Chapters, which you fight a freaking dragon, you know?
Yeah.
The Jack of Blades was actually a really good villain as well.
I do remember that.
But Fable 2 fell very short because of that
Sure.
final boss, you know? The gameplay itself was acceptable. A guy could work with it. Very exploitable, but that final boss is what really
Are you
ruined
talking
that one.
exploitable with the shops that you could own and stuff? Yeah, I remember doing that.
And then, like, turning off your game,
Yep.
setting your system clock to the far future,
Yep.
going back in,
And then you're
going
a
back and
billionaire.
repeating it over a couple times.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a good
So-
time.
It was, well, time. I see what you did there. But no.
Unintentional.
You could also trade with people. Some random person dropped in my game and gave me like $1 billion gold one time. I was
There
like,
you go.
okay.
But, I mean, then again, at the same time, like, Fable is actually an incredible example of how everything needs to be in balance. Because the first one is beloved for the reason it was a good game, great final boss. Second one, good game, horrible final boss. Nobody liked it. Third one, horrible game, decent final boss. Nobody liked it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have to have it all in balance. So even
But
if you
yet,
have
at the same time, it's one of the most beloved franchise in the last 20 years. So you say
That's
no one.
pushing it a bit.
that is actually pushing it quite a bit.
Well, you say no one liked it.
it's
But
a-
yeah, it has
I
a
would-
cult following.
It's a
for
cult
sure.
classic for
It is
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Like, I'll admit, I still love Fable, but I don't like 2 and I hate 3. So, but I love the first one. It's still one of the games, if I just want to forget what's going on and just chill for a while, it's a game where you can feel very overpowered and just hack and slash your way through it. No
I feel like
problem.
that's a perfect game for the last 2 years, if that's the case.
But no.
If I want to forget what's going on, let's just forget
Rip
2020.
Lionhead.
So,
But yeah.
That's kind of my general, most generic thoughts on
Yeah.
Final Boss. I could get far more in
Sure.
depth, but I know that you had something else you wanted to mention. I heard from
Yeah.
before.
Well, it was mentioned just like a group as a whole, and they mentioned what the Fireflies, right? Not a good opinion that people don't like. I don't like The Last of Us that much as everyone else does.
I
think it
adore
was-
the first one, but I know what the second one is, and I refuse to play it.
I'm not even talking about I respect what The Last of Us did a lot. I understand it. I just thought it was too boring for me. The Fireflies
Gameplay-wise
cool.
or story-wise? Because I think story-wise
Both
is
gameplay for sure.
I think story is probably one of the best stories I've
It was
ever played.
too mundane for me. I just want to throw out that's just personal preference. Just the Fireflies are cool. I understand it. You understood their methodology, what they were trying to do, and why.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was just people in a post-apocalyptic world who just fought you for a pretty easy reason, you know? Like, it wasn't huge for me, you know?
Yeah. There's a group of villains, the Tunnel Snakes from Fallout 3.
Interesting.
Trying to
I don't know
remember.
why that just popped in my
don't.
head.
That one's not really popping back into my brain very well. I played Fable 3, but
No, Fallout 3.
or Fallout 3. That's what I meant.
It's
Sorry.
the gang of like teenagers in the vault at the beginning that you have to.
Oh, those.
Yeah,
They're so forgettable.
they are. That's why they
Um,
just, for whatever reason, it popped in my head. Like I had to say the Tunnel Snakes. I don't know why.
As this is kind of an interesting one. It's you can call it a group, but it's not really. It's just a collective organism. But the Flood from Halo,
Oh yeah, that's cool.
like, it's, I don't know, one mind, many parts kind of thing. It's scary. That parasitic life form that will, engulf and take over everything and kill you. It had a little bit of a horror element that was in, a shooter, which was kind of, you haven't seen that at that point,
Which is, I think, why it helped. That
Right.
game was so popular.
It was so good. The story,
that
fantastic.
definitely helped.
But, just that unrelenting coming after you type thing, taking you out, taking other enemies out. Like, it was awesome. So I appreciate that. That would be my number one group, I guess. It's not, if you want to call it a group. It's not really a group.
I call it a hive mind. more
Right,
than
yeah.
anything.
A grave mind,
Well,
if you say. But
you're
I don't
not
know.
wrong.
Groups are interesting. They can be really good. It can also take away from things because it's too spread out. It's not really. Sometimes it's like the leader is has the thought process behind why they're doing things, and the others are just there. I don't know. To each their own. Like I said, there's just a uniqueness to good villains, and it's to each their own, I guess.
Yeah, because what you were saying earlier, like, and I know we kind of touched on this already when you said a lot of people think that a good villain needs to be relatable.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. I think the more unrelatable they are, just the more chaotic and just pure evil they are. Like, I honestly think that Thanos is not anywhere near as good as the Green Goblin, villain-wise. I would rather have that. People are like, I understand why Thanos did what he did, and that's kind of like, that's the relatable aspect. Is
there's a method to his madness.
See,
There's a method to Green Goblin's madness as well, if you think about it.
but it's a lot more chaotic,
Sure, or
Which
it's just
I
more
like.
brutal. Like,
which I like.
it's chaotic in a sense because it's chaotic to. It seems chaotic to what we would normally think is someone doing something for some reason.
Yeah.
But his reason was perfectly understandable. He wanted to break Spider-Man. He wanted him to become himself.
Yeah. Yeah, which I mean, but that's not really as relatable,
Sure.
If we're going relatability, I don't think. You know what I want to do today?
No one has a
I wanna
has a
break
rival
somebody.
that we want to crush their soul. Like, obviously not, but
I feel sometimes Weston feels that way about me.
Only most days.
yeah. But I don't know. I think people are just looking for something new,
Yeah.
and they don't understand what
I'm trying to think
new
of,
thing they should be looking for.
Yeah.
I
I'm trying
think
to think of what games are coming out that they've announced where, like, I'm excited about this story because of the villain.
because of the villain.
And
I'm not sure.
And I can't think of any right now. One I'm really looking forward to hearing more about, that I'm sure we're going to hear it at E3, is going to be Starfield. Because I think having something like that in space could be really, really cool in regards to, like, hey, this person, like, I don't know if it's going to be one person that tries to take over the universe, if it's one person that tries to take over just a specific galaxy, if it's one person that tries to take over just a couple planets, like, we don't know. But I'm incredibly excited to see what they do with that.
It'll be a group,
You think it's going to be a group that tries to take over
a
something?
group or a company or something.
An organization of some
Yeah.
sort.
It'll
I don't
be,
know, it's-
it'll be Facebook with the metaverse.
Another group that's actually really cool, I guess, that we forgot about is Cerberus from Mass Effect series. Like, that was a really cool utilization of a group. But I don't know. I guess we kind of explained a little bit. I just want to hear some of your favorite villains, I guess, before we move on. I have a few that
Yeah.
are pretty worth mentioning, I guess.
I mean,
but,
I listed off mine
yeah.
already. Where
Andrew Ryan from BioShock.
that's
That
what,
was an awesome one where you don't see the guy. You see the guy maybe just a couple times, and then you immediately kill him in the end. and it's nothing. Like it's a scripted scene where you have to kill him. That's it. But you feel him throughout the series through his voice and on the radio and stuff, and through his like philosophy and why he created this whole environment. It's like really, really cool.
I have BioShock, but I haven't played it yet.
Dude, what are you doing, man?
There's a lot of games that
That's up there in my
yeah.
top 10 games ever.
I think it's is it 1, 2, and Infinite? Are those the?
Yeah, and 4 is in the works.
Okay, so I do have 1, 2, and Infinite on the PS4.
Yeah, play them, dude. But that one's really cool.
And yes, Terraria it is. To answer your question.
Is it on the new engine?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, it wasn't going to be, and I thought it was so stupid.
It's the Creative Engine 2.
The creation engine's garbage. So.
Yeah, it's the creation. I don't know like what the difference is between the first one and the second one, but I know it's a Creation Engine 2.
All right, we'll see.
So that should be good.
Someone else. Just one more villain, I guess. Gaunter Odim from the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt DLC Hearts of Stone. I love that villain. He's this. I don't want to.
Yeah, I've played that.
Yeah, right.
I know how good he is.
So good. But he's this all-powerful devil, evil incarnate entity that it's just really funny because when you start the game before DLC came out, he's like the first person you meet in a tavern, and he explains where you're supposed to go, and I think you can play Gwent with him or something like that. But then when you come back after the whole game is done, you learn that he's like this crazy dude, the Man of Glass, and
Oh, really?
and he like ensnares you in this contract. He's like a demonic contract dude. It's fantastic. I love that. It's so cool. But the ending scene where he's just clapping and he's walking sideways out of the sky. So cool. All right. I'm done.
No, you just got me thinking about the Witcher series, and I was like,
So good.
you know, the first one actually ends with a group enemy for the most part.
You still need to get me the mods for the first two that you say make it.
You
Really
should,
good to
dude.
play.
So good.
Because I want to play it, but I'm waiting till I can actually use like a control. I don't like mouse and keyboard for games like that.
I hate mouse.
I actually don't like mouse and keyboard either.
I love mouse and keyboard for games like Sea of Thieves and like other first person, games like that. I love it. But otherwise, I hate it for games like The Witcher. I hate it for a lot of third person games. I don't
get a controller. Plug it in, man.
Well, it doesn't work with controller for The Witcher 1 and 2, which is part of the mods that he has. Will give it controller support.
I mean, with Steam, you can do a little if you get it through them.
But
it's not as well integrated.
Which is why I want you to get those for me.
I just need to package them and just send them to you.
Yeah, just put
Show
them in
you what it boils
Dropbox
down
or
to.
something.
But
Not really a villain, but one of my favorite characters of all time, Sheryl Gorath from the Shivering Isles expansion in Oblivion.
I mean, he was kind of both villain and
Well, he's not really like a full villain, but he's a Daedric prince of madness. It's like, but his voice acting is so good. Like that's one of the best performances I think for a video game character, just voice acting wise. I love it.
That's pretty funny.
And one line that I will never forget from him in that is when he's like, and if you mess up, I'll rip out your intestines and I'll jump rope with them. Like just the stuff that he says was just so out of the blue, and I loved it. Because like I said, with like similar to the Green Goblin, just chaos. Or in this case, more madness.
It has an appeal, just with the Joker.
Yeah, which is what I like. Obviously, I mean I listed
Sure.
him off too. So
Yeah.
that's definitely another one. But
Arkham series Joker.
that was going to be one of mine.
So good.
is that the one that was voiced by Mark Hamill, or is that just the
That's
cartoon?
Mark Hamill.
Okay, it is in the
I'm pretty sure it's
the
Mark
Arkham
Hamill.
series
It's
as
Mark
well.
Hamill.
Yep.
Because I know he did it in the cartoon, but I wasn't sure if he did it in the
I
video
think it's
game as
Mark
well.
Hamill, and I'm pretty sure it's Kevin Conroy, right, for Batman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the same animated series got Arkham the voices.
Yeah,
Very
he's
cool.
one
I
of my favorites.
I didn't
I
realize
love
that.
him so well in that.
Yep.
So any other ones that you guys want to bring up then?